Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. Right. An elderly man went into a funeral home with his son one day. His wife died earlier that day by only a few hours. She battled cancer for about 5 years and outlived the doctor's diagnosis by at least 3. Him and his son planned the arrangements and left for the day. The father and husband came back the next day, saw his wife laying there in the blue dress she wore for their 65th wedding anniversary. He whispered something in her ear, and left without saying a word to any of the staff. About 20 minutes later, a loud bang rang out from the back side of the building. One of the employees went out and saw that he had shot himself by his car. Though this might be an extreme case, this is a true story that happened here in Lincoln earlier this year. I cannot personally comprehend his loss, but I can understand and relate somehow to the feeling of helplessness when you lose a loved one. I've done plenty of research to help myself learn how to cope, and I definitely want to share these to hopefully help make coping easier on you guys if you ever have to go through the situation. Death will occur, and knowing what emotions will develop may help make grieving easier for you. Grief defined is deep sorrow, especially during a time of death. Everyone will face a death at some point in their life. 8 million suffered a death of a loved one last year. 80,000 of those were spouses, and 400,000 lost someone while they were under the age of 25. There's lots of numbers, lots of deaths, and lots of people left behind, and I am one of those. Understanding a grieving process has made it easier for me, and I definitely want to share these facts like I stated earlier. The Mental Health American website provided the following facts and statistics. Death is one of life's most stressful events. Most people are not prepared, and grief can lead to a major emotional crisis. Keeping these statistical facts in mind, it's important to remember that grief can be worked through, and you are allowed to begin anew. There are 5 stages of grief by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and Dan Kessler that they formed together to help make the grieving process easier on us. The first stage is denial. We think somehow this is a mistake, that you want to avoid what's going on, you're confused. As Harold Kushner stated, grit your teeth and let it hurt. Don't deny it, and don't be overwhelmed by it. It will not last forever. The next stage is anger. Anger is why me? Why them? This isn't fair. There's not justice. You can be frustrated and even develop anxiety. Jacques Prévet said, even if happiness forgets you a little bit, never completely forget about it. The next stage is bargaining. This is when you try to negotiate with a higher being you believe in by seeking to get out of this new reality by offering something, in replace of it. As Winston Churchill said, even if you are going through hell, keep on going. The next stage is depression. Depression is refusal to believe, overwhelmed. You can have a loss of energy, change of habits. You can become distant and secluded. As Lois Lowry said, he wept and it felt as if tears were cleansing him, as if his body needed to empty itself, which is how depression can flow into acceptance. You learn that it's going to be okay, that life does move on and you have a new reality. Harriet Schiff from the Bereaved Parents said, keep memories of your loved ones alive in your mind and hearts. It's an important part of your healing journey. So with that said, my great aunt passed away earlier this year. She was like a grandmother to me and pretty much like a second mother to my father. I went through these 5 stages when she passed away, and it first started when she got sick. I was in the bargaining stage and even slightly denial the week prior to her passing. I knew that she was getting sick, I knew she was getting worse, and I just couldn't believe that this woman who has been in my entire life was going to pass away on me. I got to the funeral home about 15 minutes before she passed, or after she passed away, and I kind of went into slight depression and sadness. I cried a lot, and tears didn't last very long because I finally found my way into acceptance a lot sooner than I was expecting to be. I told myself that, okay, this is my new reality. I'm gonna grit my teeth and I'm gonna work my way through it to make myself be okay with this new reality. It's still hard. I still feel the depression stage every once in a while. The house we're in is her house that I'm living in now. Every time I walk around a corner and expect to see her, or I'll catch a smell, that makes me think of her. But I just know to keep the memories alive, and it helps me keep going through my day-to-day life and be happy. Hopefully all this can help make the process easier for you. Don't be afraid to reach out to a friend or a source or a family member to help you through the grieving process. Just know that naturally we all go through grief at some point in our life, and the 5 stages can definitely help you through that process. The American Psychology Association website article stated that loss is understood as a natural part of life, but we can still be overcome by shock and confusion. Without grieving, one cannot overcome the feelings. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Out of all of the research that you've done, what do you think would be the one thing that somebody can do to help someone else get through a loss?
I feel like listening is the best thing a person can do to help another through a loss. Sometimes when you're struggling going through this loss, you sometimes don't know how to comprehend your emotions and your feelings and thoughts. And talking it out can help you express those and almost come to your own epiphany. It can take a weight off your shoulder, or weight off of their shoulder, and sometimes makes the next step of the process that much easier for the person.
Okay. Why do you think death is such a stressful event?
Death, I think, is a stressful event because our society has made death very taboo. It's not spoken about. You don't want to talk about your family members dying. It's very kind of shoved in the corner in the closet. As the man from the story in the beginning of my speech, death wasn't a normal since we didn't talk about it, so he most likely could not comprehend the idea of not being with his wife. And the only way he could think about it was ending his life to be with her. I feel if we were to make death a more publicly known or more publicly accepted statement or part of life, then I feel like it can make the initial shock of death that much easier and easier for us to go through the process. And everybody's still here.